Good morning, y'all. Good morning. Come on in. Come on in. Welcome. Come in. Hello. Good morning. I don't have a tripod today, so my camera might feel a little low, but welcome. Good morning, Raul. I'm Sexy Shay. Good morning on Instagram. YouTubers, welcome. Facebook, welcome as well. If this is your first time in, welcome. My name is Aisha Chidoin. I'm an immigration lawyer here in the United States. Our offices are in Atlanta, Georgia, but we represent clients all over the United States with their immigration matters. We handle various kinds of immigration, family-based immigration, consular-based. So family would consist of marriage, filing for a parent, a child, sibling, fiance visas, humanitarian based cases like VAWA, T visas, U visas. Someone is saying there's no sound. Make sure you put on your volume because I think the other people can hear me. If you can hear me, just put a thumbs up and let me know. Someone said that's okay. You're so gorgeous without it. Thank you. That means you can hear me. And so we handle all different cases, and then our lead attorney here, Stacy, handles removal cases, bond, detention work, and all of that good stuff. Okay, so I think that person is just having a volume issue. All right, so if you want to schedule a consult, call us 407-995-6567. You can also send a WhatsApp to 404-333-8751. So today, let's get right into it. Should I bring photos of the album to the appointment? Sure, but if you can, one of the things that we like to do, because a lot of times USCIS keeps that stuff, or they don't. Sometimes they may not be able to make a photocopy or whatever it is. So when I attend interviews with clients, or before my clients go to the interview, either on through our portal, our legal portal, or the client's legal portal, we put together like what we call a supplemental bona fide evidence. I think that this is something that is very critical and very helpful to a lot of marriage cases, because even though you submit a lot of things, depending on when your interview is scheduled, when you do come to the interview, USCIS will usually ask you for supplemental evidence, or they will send an email to either you or your attorney asking you that before the interview, upload any supplemental evidence that you have, because that would help them maybe review it quicker, and at least they can make a quicker decision on your I-131. So what we do is we just put together like an organized supplemental evidence, and label it that, where we have like pictures, and all the pictures will already have captions. The reason why I don't necessarily like you taking like an album there is, because they're actual pictures, you can't really caption them. An officer is not going to start captioning in that for you. So like like scanning them into like a color copy is helpful, where it's captioned already, and then in a section with any kind of new financial entanglements. Like, so if you had like statements that you submitted before from like any of your accounts, like whether that's bank accounts or utility bills, you want to add the months that you haven't submitted, so things like that, and then just kind of put them in an organized one PDF. Sometimes the PDF file ends up being too large to upload, but if the PDF file is not too large to upload, you just upload it in the supplemental evidence. If not, you can break it. And worse, and if all else fails, just take that supplemental packet with you to USCIS to your interview. That's what I would recommend. Think about it yourself. Like if you give someone something that's organized, you've already organized it and it's organized, it makes it easier for them to make a decision than you just having things all over the place. All right, here's some pictures, here, whatever, and so that might actually help quicken your case. Someone is asking for the phone number again. It is 407-995-6567. Our other number is 678-325-1037. It is also in my profile. So even if you don't get it, just go on my profile. It should be in there. You can see it if you're on YouTube or Facebook. It's in the ticket right now. So you should go, you should be able to see it on all the different platforms. Someone asked, let me go back to that question that I saw. Are you looking for therapists to do immigration evaluations? Personally, no. Like, our clients are able to use any therapist that they want that is, licensed to do it. Generally, if we see that when a client submits a psychological evaluation, the therapist has really taken the time to really understand the client's history, add like stats, add like different things that help to support the case, we definitely keep them in our wheelhouse so that if we know someone, so if we have like clients saying, do we know anyone in that state? We can say, okay, here are a list of therapists in the state, we've worked with, maybe you can try some of them, because, I really believe that, you have to connect with the person you use. So I don't ever want to refer someone and say, go use this person if you don't like the person, so it's always good to give clients options and say, here are a few people, try them. I will tell you though, sometimes we get therapist reports that I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, you didn't even do any work. Like, you didn't even assess or analyze anything. Or sometimes where therapists wants us to do the work for them and tells us, okay, well, can I see the client's personal statement? But again, we're always willing to see how this therapist put in the work and how they assess, client's case and whatever it is that's going on with the client. And if it's good, we'll always add it to our list. One thing about me, and I've talked about this for years, I really believe in quality. I really believe in quality output, in every regard, whether that's our submission, whether that's us, getting a client's file out. Sometimes the client was like, no, just send it like that. And I'm like, nope, we're not sending it like that. It must be flawless. It must look good. We must, we must make sure that this, and this we check. And sometimes, that can require more time. But I am telling you guys, if you present your stuff, really, taking the time to prove to USCIS whatever benefit that you're asking for, it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. A lot of times people just gather all those different things and have like dates that don't make sense, dates that don't add up, whatever it is, and just like, okay, well, just no, you got to explain it. So if you're telling me that you signed a lease from January of 2025 to December of 2025, but it doesn't appear that you started living there till March, we want to explain that. We want to explain that. So even if the reason is that, yeah, I signed the lease, but I didn't start living there, I was just paying rent, that happens. But the point is, being able to explain those things and being able to be detailed and organized in your submission in every aspect makes a huge difference. So yeah. Lately, almost all 2025's I-130 visas have been paused. USCIS is only processing old cases slowly, not just banned countries, but all of them. Have you heard of why and when they will be resumed? That is a very, very inaccurate statement, and you guys need to make sure that you're not calling out numbers and saying things if you actually don't know or you're not sure. So I-130s have not been paused, if that's what you're referring to. And then because I-130 is not a visa, I-130 is a petition. So that's number one, and that's number one. And then number two, a visa is separate. So the visas are for consular processing, unless you're doing like a T visa or a U visa. That's number one. So if it's an I-130, they are making I-130 decisions, and generally that's why when we get stuff, we like to post it just so that you can see, because there's just so much misinformation out there, right? What is on hold right now are final approvals for green cards. Final approvals for green cards, N400s, anything basically that they need your biometrics to make a decision, right? To make you admissible into the US or give you permanent status in the US. There is a new system. They are running this new biometrics, and each officer continues to confirm it at the interview. saying, we're running these, we've been asked to run this, so we can't make any decisions until we run it. So for every case type right now, you should expect a delay. And guys, please try not to be upset with your lawyers when you go on USCIS and you see that the dates of processing time has changed. We don't make that, it's not us who creates the rules. So even if you may have come to a lawyer, a year ago, 2 years ago, and maybe they told you something, this was a timeline, that's the timeline of that day. So whenever people ask me, I say, as of today, this is what it is. But I can't tell you in a year if they're going to be quicker or slower. Let me give you an example. You have consular processing, right? So because of everything going on, the visa bulletins are now current. But at some point last year, it was like a 2-year wait. So, but now they're current, right, for certain categories like under F2A or whatever. So, again, there are a lot of overlapping things happening. And so instead of, so it's best to not say something definitively that you're unsure of. Okay. Can you file an I-751 without a lawyer? You can file any application to immigration without a lawyer. That said, it would be silly to do that, especially in this administration with everything going on and everything that we're seeing. But, it is a free country. You can do whatever you want. Just like, if your engine, tanks or whatever, you can try and watch a YouTube video and fix it yourself, but do you want to? So it depends on how much you want to gamble with your future. What evidence do I need for an I-751 with my spouse? An I-751, for those who don't know, is an application to remove the conditions on your green card. Typically, when you get married and you file for a green card based on marriage, if at the time of approval, your marriage has been less than 2 years, you will get a 2-year conditional green card. So the condition is basically that in 2 years, you have to file a form called the I-751. And, when you submit the I-751, you have to prove that you have continued to maintain a good faith marriage. There is no circumventing this process. So USCIS does not want you to get a 2-year green card and then you're now like, peace out, I'm out of this marriage, don't need to gather evidence. In a world that we're living where it's very adversarial towards immigrants, and there's a lot of immigrant hate, and all of those things where you don't necessarily think, oh, should I keep evidence of this? At this point, you should always have evidence of everything, just because you just never know what's going to be needed from you or what is going to be asked of you. I'm going to give you guys an example of that in a second, about a case that was brought to us based on something that was filed before. For instance, when you get that 2-year green card, let's say you got your 2-year green card in like 2024, when you're submitting your 751, USCIS is going to want to see evidence from 2024 when they approved you, or if you had an interview waiver when you submitted your application till your submission. They're going to want to see more things. Now you have a social security number, now you have a green card. So the excuses of, we can't have a bank account, we can't have this, are no more as strong unless you really have a strong excuse. So, you want to make sure that you continue to commingle your finances. You want to make sure that you are building a life together, whether that's you guys socializing with others, activities with others, your neighbors know you guys, wherever you're living, whether that's a lease or a homely purchase, that you're both involved in some capacity. If one person can be on the lease, are they on a utility? But how are you making sure that USCIS knows that you guys are living in that same household? If you know friends or family members who know of your relationship and who have hung out with you guys several times, they should write affidavits. You should never submit generic affidavits where it's like, oh yeah, I know them, they're a wonderful couple, they're going to have a happy life and live happily ever after. Your affidavits really need to be able to talk about how they know you guys, how you guys have hung out in the past, how you've connected, who do they know first, how do they meet you? So, more detail, as detailed as you can. Some other things that you should be thinking about is taxes. Did you guys file taxes together? If you're married filing separately, why did you file married filing separately? So those are things that I would want to include. So I wouldn't just arbitrarily include a tax return that says married filing separately just because maybe I'm trying to show that it's in the same address or that, they're still claiming they're married. I would want an explanation. So that if the officer already has it in their head, we've already answered it. In the application, this is why, and for some people, why might some people file that? Sometimes some people have complex businesses, and maybe one person is self-employed and they file a tax extension, and they may have tax liabilities and they don't want to pass that on to their spouse, or they have child support issues and they don't want to pass that on to their spouse because, when you do joint filing, you're both liable for the tax liability, just like you both benefit if there's a tax refund. So those are some of the things that you really would want to consider, and most especially things that are dated after your original submission. Okay, I said I was going to tell you guys about something. Yeah, so why I was saying just really documenting because we're definitely seeing some cases or decisions or noise or RFEs that just make it really, really tough for immigrants. We had this person who came to us. They had filed a case before they came to our firm. They filed it by themselves. Didn't really realize the seriousness of it. The case ended up getting denied because a spouse sent a letter saying we're no longer together. He really didn't want to be with me. He really wanted to, he didn't really want to be with me. He really just wanted me for papers, whatever it is. And the person married someone else because for a lot of people, someone said, are you a lawyer yourself? Sorry, let me just digress. Yes, I am a lawyer. And as a matter of fact, this May 22nd, will be my 20th year as a licensed attorney in the United States. I'm licensed in 3 states, New York, which is where I have been licensed for 20 years. This year will be 10 years with my Florida bar, Florida, and then Georgia. When did I get my Georgia license? I want to say I got Georgia because I moved to Georgia in 2022. So I think I got my license in 23. So yeah, 20 years I've been a lawyer and grateful for it. I enjoy what I do. I think that in order for you to be a lawyer, you have to be a natural empath. You have to have the heart to help people, especially when people do things that they're not meant to do. You have to be someone that has sympathy and empathy towards others and trying to understand that people deserve a second chance. So humanity deserves a second chance. Sometimes being a lawyer is not easy because we have to, as I always say, absorb whatever trauma you guys come with or whatever drama you guys, can come with, and we have to take on that burden in addition to our own personal issues. But yeah, I'm a punk. I am an attorney. But back to what I was saying. So this person, filed with another spouse, everything's solid, blah, 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 wonderful. They use a different word. So they basically, sent them a notice of intent to deny, basically, we can't approve you because your previous marriage, we believe that it was a fraudulent marriage, right? And then, responded and USCIS goes, well, if all of those things were going on with you and your spouse was so cruel to you, or whatever it is, why didn't you say that at the interview, right? If someone is being harassed and taunted and abused by their spouse, how in the world will they be sitting next to their abuser and telling USCIS, oh yeah, I'm sitting right next to my abuser, and let me tell you what it is that he did for me. It's such a silly thing, this is a case that we're assisting them with an appeal because we're going to go in. But what I'm trying to say by that is to say, as you can see, when you have a bunch of different officers that their level of empathy or level of understanding or whatever implicit bias or hate or whatever feelings they have towards immigrants are very strong, you really need to make sure you have a strong case, because it's not just about having a good faith marriage, like I said, because, I remember asking certain questions. Well, why is this here? Why did you say this or why didn't you say that? And you realize a lot of this is a misunderstanding of the question. And that's why sometimes in an interview, when I can tell my client is not understanding something, I will step in and say, officer, I don't think he understands the question. I don't think she understands the question. Can I rephrase the question to make sure my client understands, especially where I know culturally that they're not interpreting. I mean, I guess that's the benefit sometimes of, if you work with certain cultures, you kind of start to understand how they think, or if they are from like your culture, you understand how they think. I've been in interviews where, I'll give you an example, like with Nigerians, where Nigerians have like 1 million names. Like, they may have like, they may have like four names, and their last name, because, the parents are going to name them. They're going to get their Christian name. They're going to get the name from their grandparent. They're going to get one pet name. Like, these are all their legal names. And, I remember like, I've had a few interviews where it was a bit of a challenge, or USCIS, tried to question their names or the order of their names, or sometimes they'll go by one name and change their name. And, I had to step in to talk about it culturally, and why, certain things are named that way, and to tell the officer, if you want to go on the visa reciprocity schedule, and look at it, this is how. So it helps. It was helpful that, of course, I knew some of those things, but a lot of examples of things like that happen where, if you kind of know the culture, or like, in Jamaica, where, someone may have written that they were in a common law marriage and their B1, B2 marriage, but not a legal marriage. And USCIS is accusing them of lying on their B1, B2 and trying to explain to them, no, culturally, you can say you were in a common law marriage, especially if you've been in a relationship and living together for more than 5 years. A lot of times they use this for property, right? In Jamaica, just for property rights, but it's not considered a legal marriage for every other purpose. So sometimes it's a misunderstanding of the question, and having someone who understands or who can articulate it helps. Okay. A lady filed for her daughter, but they are trying to send her back to her country to complete the filing. But she has been here since she was a child. Is there a way that they can do? Unfortunately, that's too broad a question, that without knowing what they're filing for or what this is, I unfortunately cannot answer you. You can have that person schedule a consultation with us, and we can see what is going on. But my instincts suggest two categories. If this person is filing for her daughter and she has to go back to her home country after she does a 601A waiver, it means one of two things. Either the daughter entered without inspection, or the daughter entered and the daughter is over, entered with inspection, is over the age of 21. And so from a family, so instead of her being an immediate relative, she's a family preference relative. And the only way for you to adjust your status, if you're in a family preference, is you must be in legal status at all times. You can't have overstayed your visa. You can't have entered without inspection, or whatever it is. So typically in that case, yes, you do have to consular process and once your 601A waiver is approved, unless you are eligible for another humanitarian-based case. So is a person eligible for a T visa? Is a person eligible for VAWA? Is a person eligible for a U visa? Is a person eligible for asylum? So these are all things that she should be screened for to determine if there are any other eligibilities that can keep her in the United States. Our consultation is $150, for our consult. It's funny. I was joking with a colleague yesterday. She had sent me a consultant who charges $175 for her consultation. And I was saying that, and, y'all got me a 20-year attorney, who has been doing this, and I post all my results and people still complain. So it's $150, you either consulting with me or another licensed attorney, at our firm. And so if you want to schedule a consult, check in our profile and we'll be happy to get you all set. Shamika says, thank you for all you do. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I wanted to shout out African Sege for saying, good morning and thanks for your continuous hard work. How long does your team take to process and submit VAWA cases? VAWA cases depend. It depends on, the person's case, what kind of evidence we're trying to get. But VAWA cases do take a long time. Any humanitarian-based case, when you're looking at this packets, most of these packets are 200 pages, 300 pages, and we're going to review them page by page by page by page on different levels. And every single page I must review before they go out. So those take time. All right, guys. Well, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.